Hello and good evening for this Wednesday, March the 19th, 2025. We have just finished watching the fourth episode of Survivor 48, titled The House Party's Over, but we're just getting the party started here on Super Mario Brothers Podcast. Live stream, YouTubing, we're Facebooking, we're Twitching. Or you might be listening to us on Spotify or something like that. Also on Jason R. Phillips channels here as well, simulcasting all across the internet. I'm Dave Mader. This is Jason Phillips. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. My fantasy league is still intact after two pretty near falls. I feel pretty good. This episode was good. It was a good, solid episode. We watched the penultimate episode of Severance earlier tonight, and it was kind of a whatever episode. And
Right.
I was like, Survivor better be good, because that was kind of just people getting into their places for the finale. But this was an all-timer episode. There was lots of great stuff that happened, and I'm pretty excited to talk about it.
Yeah, me too, Jason. This is the first time we're actually talking about Survivor 48 this year. We're here on the fourth podcast. Of course, we're out. Jameel Robinson out tonight. Becky Robinson out tonight for Becky's mother's birthday. It was Jameel's mother's birthday yesterday, as well as Jameel's brother's birthday, and also my birthday yesterday. So it's been
Happy
a busy.
birthday! Happy
Well,
birthday!
thank you. But there's a lot of that. So they're out tonight, and Jeff Mader still working, burn the candle at both ends, working all kinds of night jobs, shaking his money for the night. I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with that. But who else is there? Josh Foster, not feeling well tonight. Had to take a rain check. So Jason, we're catching up for the first time. How are you? Like this, I agree that this episode was good, and it was a shake-up here with this tribe swap in action. But also coming off of the last tribe, and I guess the first three episodes of this season as well. How are you feeling about this? And is it standing out amongst the 40s?
So I've been saying, we talked about this towards the end of last season as well. The further into the 40s we get, the more it feels like the new generation is becoming closer to classic Survivor versus the beginning of the 40s, around the pandemic times, when the new casts would always feel sort of like they knew how to watch Survivor but not how to play it. And they weren't, we didn't get those like buffoons. We didn't get those big personalities. We didn't get the people that just were clueless. Now we're getting kind of this season is kind of a mix of both worlds. People that are they watch Survivor, but they come out here and they try to act larger than life, feeling a lot like old Survivor. So I feel like this season is the first time that every episode has had a little something, and I haven't been going, well, on to the next. It's a strong start to the season, and also for my fantasy game, I'm on top of our pool for once out of the gate, which never happens, because I did a lot of reading on these characters going in, and I felt like I made educated guesses. But last week you guys probably talked about it in full, but I have Say and Mary, and I dodged a bullet. And then I feel like this week I dodged a bullet as well, with a play being actually followed through with, and an idol being played correctly. Which, if you've been watching Survivor for the last 5 years, it's very rare that an idol is not only played correctly but played at all.
Do you mean when Say played her idol in episode 2, or are you talking about the shot in the dark use?
Last week's shot in the dark use, yeah. Somehow the second ever effective shot in the dark was played, and then I kept both of my players, and
Yeah,
who got sent home? Kevin? What was his
it
name?
was the pizza boy.
Oh yeah, Justin.
Justin, yes. And yeah, I thought okay, so I thought that we did cover that in full, but it was still exciting and kind of historic nonetheless, and how it all played out in that previous tribal council with the shot in the dark played, and then this tie vote, and then Justin doesn't have a vote, and then how Cedric ultimately chooses to keep Say over Justin, even though I don't think that was the smart move. After you vote for Justin to stay twice, and then so Say's never going to trust you really.
Right.
There's always going to be a little bit of that. So you're better off just to stay with Justin after how this vote's played out. But he changes his mind, and we'll see how this goes this season. Maybe it will be the sort of exception, but I just think it's not necessarily the smartest move. But it was interesting to see that then that energy, which was very very different, then kind of go into this episode, which was all about the shakeup, right? So we get a little bit in the beginning of the episode with the old Vulu tribe, where the three of them left and they're dysfunctional, and how Say and Mary, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we're trying. They're trying to find a way to work together and how to do this kind of thing. But they have to really think hard out loud about all that.
Well, I turned to my wife after the episode last week, and I go, so how do they go from here? Because if one team only has three players left, then where do we go? And then right in the on next week's episode, it's like, drop your buffs. And I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to be 2 tribes of 7, but that would still be odds.
Because they're at 15 right now. So
yeah.
Foster did accurately predict it was going to be 3 tribes of 5 was the most likely outcome. There's always that chance they could do 2 tribes of 7, and then they throw somebody in the middle, sort of an exile island or something. But it's a little
or they do that thing where like it's 2 tribes, but you get voted out, and then you don't get your buffs until the game's over. Whoever wins gets buffs. And I also had this is a rarity too, where it's mixed up to this degree. A lot of times, I mean, I'm surprised that the Jersey girls or the California girls all got put together even, but a lot of times it'll be like you'll end up with 4 people making it over together. I haven't seen a good mix up like this for one of these plays in quite some time, which is good to see. And it helps my fantasy game to spread them out as much as possible. Because I really just need this. I need this, Dave. I haven't won in 10 seasons now, and I need this, and I need the $200, and I'm going to win.
Well, in my particular survivor pool, which you're not part of it, but a lot of the people on the podcast here are like Foster and Jeff and Jameel. And in the 13 survivor drafts we've done, I've only won once. So I would like to win again. I won with Marianne back in 42.
That's what I won with too. That's crazy that our only wins
with Marianne.
with the
Here's
same
Marianne.
Yeah.
In this particular draft this year, I'm also feeling pretty good about my picks, although it's kind of an unconventional team. I've got Bianca, formerly of the Purple Tribe, and then Kyle, I think still on the Orange Tribe. That is, they're both doing well, I think, in their respective. Even though Bianca doesn't have a vote right now, and she's kind of in a vulnerable position on that tribe. She's safe tonight, right? So
yeah. And you were probably sweating a little bit in that last 20 minutes with them.
I was kind of because it was of Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like so, this whole shakeup here. So and the other thing, maybe this goes without saying, but I think it's worth saying, is that the producers, I think, don't know if they're going to do tribe swaps or if they're going to let these things play out until
we are brothers.
Apologies, my hand slipped there onto the hotkeys, but I'm sure that got your attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the producers decide on a whim. Hey, well, one tribe's down to 3 people. They've lost all the things. Maybe this is the time to shake it up at 15 people. And they're making this up as they go, right? In another season, they might not do that at all. So
I'd go so far as to say that Jeff is making it up as he goes.
Yes, Jeff specifically. So he's like, drop your buffs. So in this particular case, of course, the Logi tribe and the Siva tribe, the purple and orange tribes respectively, have not lost a challenge. So their 6 are all getting split up here into random groups. We get a lot of confessionals in the front here about how they are not happy with this. The only one who are happy are the Vula 3, the former Green Tribe members, who will get split up here with Say and Cedric going one way, and Mary will go another way. And they, neither of them go back to their old beach. They both go to new tribes with fire and all these other things, and other people go inherit their beach. Respectively, right after this, and they will be having a miserable time all the way to. Well, they're not the ones who go to tribal here, are they? In the end,
Well, Green is haunted. They end up they have like one of the most powerhouse teams, and they end up going to tribal. And on top of that, the people on Vula, the Green Tribe, they end up not going back to their original beach. And they say that it's like when they get to their new beach, it's like the ghost of a previous tribe had lived there. It looked so poorly put together because they didn't have fire for the whole game for over a week. They haven't had any food. They haven't had any, like they barely built a shelter because I think they were just so worn out that they were just sleeping wherever. They had that night. Their last night there was like a full-on storm all night. That shot of Cedric just sitting on a rock shivering all night, like
right. That
crazy.
was before all this tribe swap happened.
That was before all the tribe swap stuff.
Yeah, so we did skip over that part. Yeah, but it really worked out here, specifically I think for Cedric and Say and Mary, who get to go to better beaches, and it is haunted here. Where I think this is Jeff's like, well, this tribe is. After they get rained on, there's no way we can't do a tribe swap here. I wouldn't like if they had held on for one more vote and maybe do it in the next one. But then I don't know, like they've been doing the merges earlier and earlier in the 40s as well. So I imagine that we're probably only 2 episodes away from the merge in any respect. So the longer you can kind of break up the groups here, this is probably the right time to do it. I don't mind that this result here totally.
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you think they do? Because I guess the only other way to do it is the next game. The other 2 tribes have to have 2 people sit off, right? Like, how do they even do
have
it?
To make challenges for 3 versus 3 versus 3 at this point.
Yeah.
And then after that point, you can. Are you going to go down to a 2? I know, probably not, right? So. But they haven't done in all the tribe swaps they've done that I can remember. They haven't gone down to two tribes in the 40s at all. They kept this dynamic of 3 for the most part.
Yeah,
stayed pretty faithful with it. So if you like it or not, here we're looking at the new Vula tribe, which consisted, of Shaheen and of Camilla. And who else was here? Kyle
and Joe and Thomas.
Of course, Thomas is the one who gets voted out in this episode. Somewhat.
This is a unique season for me because I typically the only person this season where I'm going, who the hell is that? Is Charity. A little bit. Right. I learned everybody's name going in because I was so locked in on who these people are because I need to win this fantasy league. But if you need to know somebody's name, I just have them all now. I've never had this in my brain before, but I feel like I knew all these characters going in, which is rare. That first episode, I was like, I don't know any of this. And then I went and researched them for a week. And now I feel further into this season of Survivor than I typically do 4 episodes in, just because I already feel like I know their character traits.
Yeah, I agree with you that they are very distinct. I think Charity, I think you're also dead on, is sort of the most forgettable of some of these characters. And she's not bad or anything, but she's, she's the most generic and sort of, I probably won't remember her in 2 seasons, but
right.
Compared to some of these other characters, like, I remember when Marianne won, of course, you tend to remember the winners, but it's the supporting cast. How much do they really keep, make an impact? And
I think Mary is putting up a good old school Survivor character game so far. I hope she doesn't go home prematurely because I like watching her interact with people. She's so bubbly and excited to be playing. Like, I think that's what Jeff is going more towards as he gets more people to come on, feeling like old style Survivor, because I think the experiment of people with no like lower personality didn't pay off, because I've never seen so many. There were 2 people that went home in a row that time. that were like, I don't want to play anymore. And I think that he had to change his philosophy for Saved by the Bell, the new class, the new era, on who he allows to come play. He wants people that are going to play to the end, play hard, and that are going to have the personality to stay out there. Like Justin, no personality, didn't make it. Cedric, he's pretty crappy at this. He's not going to make it too much further. I mean, I could be wrong, obviously. The people who have gone home so far either went home by a fluke or Justin didn't even defend himself last week. He could have easily been like, I'm your ride or die, man. She's clearly manipulating you. And we don't know what's going to happen next week. There's only 3 of us left on this tribe. Like, I don't know why he didn't try to say anything. And Sai's like, he lied to you. Think about it. And Cedric and Sai weren't working together up to that point. So it doesn't.
Not as closely as him and Justin were.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so, but I think that Sai also did do as much as she could do to like sort of make the argument, and and Cedric's like, yeah, I guess Justin, if you're not going to try, because he didn't, Justin's like, whatever you want to do, Cedric, follow your heart. And Cedric's like, well, I don't know why you didn't tell me. I kind of get why you didn't tell me, but it's also like at this point, I just will just cut you because she's pleading her heart out here, and I gotta try to do something. So I get why it ends up this way. But Mary's standing out here. Even like Eva's a very interesting one for me too, where she's on the autistic spectrum here, and she's she's got this whole thing that she relates more to men and to and she plays with the guys hockey team and this kind of thing, but and then she ends up on this new tribe here with David because she was talking about how anxious she was to be split up from Joe, which is what it plays out here. Eva was Star from her original tribe, but those two are probably the least close from.
Well, they've had it out for each other since day one. They end up
as fate turns it out here. They end up with this tribe together, along with Charity and Mary. But and right away, Eva's like, "I will hand her heart to you on a silver platter. She is my gift to you. We can vote her out all day long. I don't care." And I think, well, Eva, that's not necessarily the best gameplay. You should at least be like, when you're down here, and maybe back on the original tribe, Star isn't your number one ally, but. The fact is that now you might all have as each other, because if they decide that, hey, we just want to pick off one from your from the original purple tribe, then you guys you're sitting ducks. You'll both be at the bottom, and then once one of you's gone, we might have another vote after that, and we might vote you both out.
Also, David and Charity have a weird relationship too, where she's like, oh yeah, like outward, we're thick as thieves, and then it cuts to her in her talking head, and she's like, I hate that guy, I need him out of here, he's gonna ruin my game. And then David goes to other people saying like, Charity's playing way too hard, I'm out here to kumbaya, I want to make friends with everybody in the early days, but Charity's playing too hard. And that's another thing that I've noticed this season. There's a good dichotomy between people that are out there to like play the long game and make friends and alliances, and then people like Say, who is apparently going to kill somebody next week based on that based on that preview. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that at least will be entertaining. That's good play out. Well, and the third tribe that we get shook up here is Orange, which we kind of touched on a little bit already, but this is Cedric and Say along with my draft pick here. What's her name? Bianca, of course. And we got Mitch.
And what's
her name? Chrissy.
Chrissy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
this team feels like, except for Say, feels like 100% fodder to me, based on traditional Survivor roles, especially like Bianca is just kind of like hasn't really done anything, but she doesn't have a vote. Chrissy is the old player, seems to get younger every season. Chrissy's not that old, but she is like probably the oldest out there. Cedric, I don't. Yeah, well, okay, well she seems younger anyway. And Cedric, I don't know about that guy, but Say she's gonna do something to one
Cedric's
of these people.
45. He's 10 years.
Okay. And Mitch. I just as a last thought about Mitch, I don't think he's going to be hard to vote out for a lot of people because of his, his story. People are going to be like, oh, well, he can stay because I don't want to have that on my conscience. But I hope it turns out he uses that to his advantage because he should. But he seems too nice to. So that's my thought about this crew.
Well, yeah, all good points. I think that Mitch connecting here with Cedric's an interesting development on this new tribe that they sort of have, because Cedric says he had a stutter that he had to get over, and they have this sort of connection on that level. Of course, with Bianca here, Bianca is this sort of swing vote, as she kind of talks about when they're initially split up here into the different tribes, but she doesn't have a vote, so her swing vote is a no swing vote. But she's not going to tell anyone, or does she tell anyone here about this truth about her vote? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I can't remember if she did or not, but
it doesn't end up mattering here. She'll get her vote back, I guess, at some point. But right now she's in this pretty vulnerable position. I think that Chrissy was sort of skeptical of Bianca, if I'm remembering that correctly, too, in the episode.
This I wasn't I was watching it, but you know how your mind tends to wander when you're not interested, even if you're paying direct attention. None of these characters, except for Say, really engaged me. So I can't really remember because it only showed their tribe a little bit before they played. I know during the game they smashed it out. Yeah. But when their tribe parts, actually I do remember their tribe bit. Chrissy was like, your camp is like a 5-star resort. You have a whole shelter built. You have food. You have a selection of foods. You have an actual kitchen and a cutting board and all that stuff built out. I think they have the cassava there.
Yeah, they did. They were. This is like potatoes. Like they were having such a better time over here at the the Siva tribe, which I guess for Mitch and Chrissy was still the one they were used to, but for everyone else, this was quite luxurious because I guess that they've had the best rewards. And who on the original Siva tribe was like really building that place up? Like what
was it David?
Was it? It could have been David. It could. Yeah, it seemed like David did a lot of work, and on his new tribe, everyone was kind of loving him here. In particular, well, Eva was liking David a lot. Shaheen was liking David. He was good. He seemed to be doing really popular, just because he's like, I have sisters and I have to take care of them, and
I think that going forward, David's niceness is going to get the best of him. Unfortunately, I think that we're getting to crunch time a little bit more now. We're a week in. People are, especially now with the mix-up, people are getting to meet new people and get to know new people. And I think once we actually get to a merge, it's going to look way different than it does now. But we're getting to that point where people are playing.
Yeah, we saw here that Charity is very skeptical of David, even though they came from the same tribe originally here. And she's like, "No, David, you're playing with your heart, not with your head." And that he seems like not somebody who's going to go deep in the game, where Charity, even though she's maybe less memorable right now, she might end up being emerging as maybe one of the great villains of the season.
I hope so. She seems like she's going to backstab David.
Yeah, she's already plotting it. Like you can see
exactly
it coming, right? And setting that up. What about? Can we talk about Camilla too and her role over on the new Vula tribe? And she's our Canadian representative. She talks about being from Toronto in this episode. And now living near San Jose, I suppose, in Northern California.
She's my wife's MVP for this game. So Madison, my wife, was sweating extra hard for the vote. But Camilla seems to be a strategist, and she's a little one step ahead. So basically, Kyle and Camilla were on the tribe together, and they came over and pretended like they didn't like each other, but they are sort of almost each other's number one. But they did a pretty good job at making it so that the new tribe didn't know how close they were. And we'll talk about it later in the episode probably, but they end up deceiving the the California girls, as the three boys are called.
It was a little too easy. Like I was like, they're eating this up so willingly. Like seems too easy, but yeah.
And they brought over. She had 2 votes, and Kyle had an idol in his pocket. So they came with a bunch of heat. Did Thomas have an idol? Did I thought he said he went home with an idol in his pocket. Maybe he said, at least I didn't go home with an idol in my pocket.
At least I didn't. Well, that's probably as good a time as any to watch his exit interview here.
Okay.
And hear what he said.
I just got blindsided by an idol, and I do have a steal a vote in my pocket, and like I have to say, they crushed it. So no regrets. This was so out of the norm for me, and I came out here with a lot of fears. I was really scared to be myself, and I learned so much about myself. I'm okay with the unknown. This has profoundly changed my life, and I am deeply grateful for it.
Yeah.
So he had the steal a vote, not an idol. He was blindsided by an idol.
Right. Okay.
He says. Here, but yeah, he goes with the steal a vote in his pocket. He doesn't see this coming particularly. Yeah, Thomas. I wish he had gone a little deeper. I was liking him as a character on this season, and I thought he was could have been really interesting to see in the post merge, but wasn't meant to be here. So but there's not a lot of boring players. I think too bad here. I think they're all kind of interesting in their own right. Maybe like Kyle and Bianca, my draft picks being two of the more boring ones of the lot here.
Thomas. I don't know if you want me to talk about it before we get to the game, but Thomas is seemed pretty devious. Like he's the one that was like, look through his bag, and the only guy's name who I don't know is the beard guy, because it's an unusual name. Shaheen. So Shaheen's like going through the bag, or maybe it was Kyle, and Thomas is like, "Are you digging around in there? Dig down deeper." And I'm just like, this guy is devious, and he was showing a lot of personality in that moment. But I agree with you. This is the kind of character too that usually goes pretty far in the game. The charismatic gay guy. It's usually like makes the merge. Yeah, the devious type.
And yeah, he gets he's sort of the victim of circumstance in some ways here, because he was doing pretty well in his. I don't think he was going first out of his original tribe. But,
yeah, he took the ricochet. He took the ricochet bullet out of the tribal
one here.
Yeah.
So Thomas, he's who the other, like Shaheen, I guess, is maybe one of the more boring ones because we're not remembering his name as much.
I remember him. He's memorable to me. It's just it's a name I've never heard before, and when it was written on paper, I didn't know how to pronounce it.
I thought it was Sean when I saw it when I read it on paper.
Right.
I thought his name was just Sean with but it's not Sean. It's Shaheen or Shaheen.
That'll be easy to remember. I'll just call him Sean from now on, and everybody be like, "That's not right."
What do you think about the Eva David dynamic potentially going further in the game?
It's the exact same dynamic as her and Joe. I think that
What if it
Eva
trio, though?
Unstoppable, and I have all 3 of them on my fantasy team, so I'd be okay with it.
Right.
I mean, I like David. As I was saying before, I think his niceness might get to him. I really hope that he, Survivor a lot of times unlocks things in people they didn't know they had in them. So he's a caregiver to, I think he said 3 sisters or 2 sisters, 3 sisters. So
3 sisters.
Right. So he naturally wants to take care of his team. And he's with all girls on this team, right? Like it's him and Star and Eva and
there's one other guy.
Cassidy. Is there? No, it's 4 girls and him.
Oh, you're right. Actually.
So he's immediately going into that mode, and that's when keep wanting to call her Chastity. Charity. That's when Charity is like, he's gotta stop that, because it's gonna. But I agree with her on that, because I think he needs to find his mean streak, because what happens when they all go to tribal and he has to team up with somebody? he's already cried, like he doesn't seem like he seems like he's going to be a macho guy, and then he's just like a sweetheart. So he's
Well,
going to find his mean streak, I think.
you weren't here last week to talk about, but what about, okay, so now it seems like his fiance or his girlfriend or whatever, they're broken up now over money issues, he says. But last week he was saying that the breakup part wasn't included in the previous episode.
That's right.
And that, she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, and he just does, he's a stunt performer. He lives in a van down by the river by his dad's house at a trailer park, and he's needs to win Survivor in order to afford his love, the life that he needs here. But maybe he's looking to get a new love in his life, potentially. Maybe he is single. I don't know what to read into this.
I think the woman that he puts on a pedestal like that, I think he's probably too good for her. If it comes down to she doesn't want to be with him over money, I think that's ridiculous. When you're married, you
Married,
are
yes.
a team with your partner, as I am, and I think that I said to my wife, I said, she's probably terrible. Like you know what I mean? Like if he's all like lovesick over her like this, and he's making up different excuses about the status of the relationship, she can't be like a good person, right? Like
She's
that's
like, hey, I am a great person. What other woman would put up with a man with 4 nipples?
I'm a great person. No, actually, that's crazy. I thought I dreamt the 4 nipple thing. I couldn't remember where it was from, and David fully has 4 nipples. That's right.
Yeah, or he did. He's been altered now.
Yeah.
But he's what was it? 6% of the population is born with extra nipples. Who knew? I guess 6% of people did.
The superfluous third nipple. It's a real.
Least, sometimes you can have 4, 6, whatever. Yeah. There's a name for it. Extra nippleitis,
and then you have to get a nippleotomy to get rid of them.
Yeah,
a nippleectomy.
Exactly. These are the superfluous nipples, sir. Anyway, I don't know. For some reason, this image of the crabs just came up here, and David doing.
Oh yeah, Mary's the fourth.
Mary loves David too. Yeah, she was like, "Yeah, David, do everything for me.
I'll be your sister," and then swooned.
Yeah. I'll be your swoon. And Cherry's like, "Enough of this. We're not splitting up. We're not doing it. David, you'll vote the way I tell you to vote."
Listen, I like Mary and I like David. I ship them. I hope that David finds a nice lady out here, because it sounds like this woman is putting too much pressure on him. To be fair, if you're 40 and the stunt thing is making you live in a van, maybe get a day job till work comes in. But I don't like to
drinks a
tell
lot of
people
chocolate milk. That's his what he lives off of here.
It's like water. Ew. Chocolate milk though. That's a little sus to me, but I love chocolate milk.
I don't know if it's like he probably works out a lot and he can drink chocolate milk, but I don't think it's making him particularly buff on it done right. Anyway, so we covered that merge tribe. So I guess we're at the point in the episode to talk about the actual immunity challenge of it all.
Now, last week, I've been saying for seasons and seasons now, why don't they bring back the, one person's blindfolded and somebody stands on a pedestal and tells them which way to go. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. This week, we go back to one of the more basic classic Survivor mashups of a bunch of Survivor elements to create a game, and it went by pretty fast. This is a nitpick and it's kind of stupid, but why only 2 balls through the frame and not 3? I don't know why that bugged me so much, but the frame only got knocked over, I think, once even. It seems like all the elements of this game were pretty softball, kind of like what did you guys have to say? I'm just really quick. What did you guys have to say about the weird Yahtzee game they played last week?
Well, I didn't hate it. I thought it was
100% luck based.
All luck based. You have to play it whether you want to or not, which was kind of different. And it's like you might as well flip a coin. It's kind of the same idea. Yeah. But it was fun to just say Survivor Yahtzee a lot. So we enjoyed that part. It was different. It was new, but it wasn't all that original either. I think like you could make that a little more I don't know. Like, there's probably take that to a different level. It might
Yeah.
be more interesting, or it might be more
We have to
convoluted. So
balance something on your head at the same time.
yeah, perhaps. But, so sometimes I have to be careful what I wish for. But
Yeah.
I think there might be something more to it that I would like to see potentially. Yeah. So in this competition, the teams had to get this huge cube thing along. They had to cut down their keys. They had to throw bags through a window, dig up sandbags, go up a pyramid here.
It was just a pyramid puzzle.
They were fighting for the right to win some fruit. And
I understand that if you haven't eaten properly in a week, fruit would be delicious. But every time they reveal fruit, I'm like, that could be more fun.
yeah, like, well, it's just a bunch of sugar, and
Yeah,
some
that
vitamins.
too. Sugar and fiber.
Yeah, so it probably lead to some bad things out there in the camp in the jungle, but who knows?
Hmm.
Anyway, so they go along here. We have the purple, green, orange dynamic, of course. Everyone's competing in this immunity challenge, and it's pretty grueling with these things where they always have to pull along the cubes. You always think someone his foot gonna get crushed, someone's gonna break a bone, or something like that. But they get to go. This would just be exhausting, especially after you've been living out in the cold rain all night or something like that.
That's interesting. And if you noticed throughout the whole episode, when it wasn't raining, it was extremely windy. And that wind, I guess it would be like Fijian winter at this point.
Yeah, so it would be June when they
Like
when they
the
filmed
wet
it, but
season.
Is that the South Hemisphere?
I think so, yeah. Because it's near Australia. Fiji's near Australia.
It is near Australia, so that does track. I'm just seeing if I can get like a.
It's like it's either a season where they keep getting sunstroke or a season where they keep getting monsoons.
Yes,
like
it is below the equator. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I guess you're getting closer into winter there, but I think it's kind of gets pretty temperate there. I don't know, like it's another relay challenge where you have to get things through, dig things up. Just how much can you have that bonding experience? You've seen one of these, you've seen them all. I feel like a lot of times with these competitions, I thought that of course, I had to build up the puzzle here, and there's a bit of a comeback here, right, where Green gets there first.
So Green almost completed, and they had one thing backwards. Camilla pretty much was running the show, and Orange was kind of fumbling because they made it up first, and they couldn't get it together. Purple made up a lot of time. Orange ends up winning, then Purple cinches it, and then Green is like, we're haunted.
The curse continues here. Yeah, Green, as you look at this particular moment here, Green is ahead of Orange.
Yeah.
Who will go on to win it. Purple, they all got through the obstacle course around the same amount of time. Like the amount, whatever lead any team got here was pretty minuscule.
David put his one arm into the sand, it seemed like, and just pulled the thing out, which was pretty crazy to see. He's a beast, man.
If
he could just
Purple had a bit of a disadvantage, I'd say, in some ways, because David is the only guy here, and this is a pretty physical challenge,
right?
So considering with that in mind here, they do exceptionally well. Yeah, Purple gets it out of this first, but they got some great athletes here on Purple,
right?
Overall, right?
Right?
And
yeah.
Of course, with Eva. And that was pretty thrilling for Mary, who's she was down and out last week. She plays the shot in the dark, and now look at her where she is. She's doing pretty good.
If she hadn't played that shot in the dark, she would not be here right now. She was so screwed, and I was so sad because not only do I have her,
because I was at the time I was like, oh, maybe you should force a 3-way tie, and then Cedric will have to pick, but then no, I mean it would she would have gone home for sure. So and the shot, it was there's a 5 out of 6 chance it won't keep you safe, that shot in the dark, but she defied all the odds, so good for her. It's got to happen sometimes.
And literally it's the 1 in 6 thing about it is like it's probably happened 12 times since they introduced it, and 2 people have successfully done it. So it's RNG will get you, but it's those odds, like just play your shot in the dark. You got a pretty good shot if you're literally on the bottom. But I've seen people that's literally their last ditch. You don't get a vote if you play the
You get
shot
no
in the
vote,
dark.
and her vote
Also,
was so she didn't know that Justin didn't have a vote, but her
right?
vote was even more powerful, right, in
Yeah,
that situation. But it still wouldn't have saved her.
exactly. Yeah,
The vote is powerful, but it's not the most powerful thing in some cases, you know.
yeah.
So sometimes it's not the best move, and she got lucky, but that was what that was what it was going to take to keep her. Ultimately, there was only
When
this one option.
I was supposed to come on last week, and I had to cancel last minute because I had a thing, and we finally watched it on like Saturday afternoon. And I was like, man, this was like the most historic thing to happen on Survivor in so long, and I missed out on talking to you guys about it.
Well,
I
it's
was
okay. You're
bummed
here
out.
now.
Yeah,
So you know.
yeah, no, and this is also a great episode. So I'll be around. It's just you know how life is. There's only
Yeah.
two of us on the show right now, so that shows you how life can be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like normally we have a whole crew of people here. We got Becky and Jameel and Foster and a lot. Not Jeff this season, but soon. He's like, you can have me on like April 19th. I was like, oh, that's great. So we're like almost done the season.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll be 2/3 probably done by then. But yeah, but it's a pleasure talking to you about this tonight, Jason. But
For
yeah,
sure. No, I'm happy to be here.
further to this immunity challenge, of course, the new Green Tribe is goes to Tribal Council, but there's all the scurrying before that. We have here Camilla talking to Thomas about planning to vote out Kyle.
This was something I really liked, where everybody had to talk to each other. The three guys in the alliance thought they had it down pat, but if you've watched Survivor, you know that everybody's still nervous. They weren't worried about stabbing each other's backs, but they didn't know what their adversaries really had. We would find out what they have. It's a lot of ammunition. But I really liked that since we had so much time, this is one of the times when the longer episodes are good, because everybody having to talk to each other individually like this, I think is interesting. I don't like it when it's a far gone conclusion and we have this like 15-20 minute like scramble and we don't
or like misdirect where they're trying to convince us it's gonna be somebody else.
exactly like yeah, because I'm too smart for the misdirects at this point. Like I know what's gonna happen. They're not fooling me. But here I legitimately didn't know. I knew it was going to be a Ricochet probably, because Kyle would be an idiot not to just play as, if you're going to play your idol, play it with this level of uncertainty. Don't just be like, oh, might be fine, because you're going to go home. And he even said like, I'm going to play. I know what happened in season 40 last season. I'm playing it. I'm not going to sit here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because so many people got voted out in 46 specifically here.
I don't think a single person played their idol in 46. I think everybody went home with their idols in their pockets in 46. And even in 47, the idols were played improperly.
Right.
I think one person played an idol properly.
The Shot in the Dark, not really an immunity idol exactly, right? But it kind of, it's sort of is. But so far, Say is the only one who's actually played an idol, and she didn't end up needing it technically,
right?
In her situation.
But she thought she was going home in her mind, right? Like it wasn't that thing where somebody plays it just because they're like, I don't know how to explain the levels of uncertainty, but I think that Say felt like she had to play it, but sometimes people play it just because, or they don't play it and they end up going home with it in their pocket, which is the worst. The absolute worst.
Well, I think that like you're better off to play it. Given I know the best case scenario is you play it and it was when you had all the votes on you that night, but
yeah.
If you're having a lot of doubt, then you ought as well. Like, what's the point of like, well, I'll hold it for one more tribal. We see that often, like people, like it's their last chance to play it, and they won't play it anyway. Just to what? So you have a souvenir? It's kind of like.
Why didn't Thomas play his steal a vote though? That's what I am not sure about.
Yeah, what was exactly the dynamic going into this tribal? So you have Camilla. And
Camilla and Kyle pretending like they're enemies, but having
and they
enough.
Want to target who?
They wanted
Thomas?
to target. Yeah, I think pretty much the Thomas was the only person they really discussed because it was more from the other side who the three were going to vote off, and they flip flopped because they had that moment at camp before they went to tribal where the California girls come back and sit down and go, on three, just say who you want to vote out, and they were split, right? So
you got Shaheen and Thomas are together. They're
Right.
a pair, right?
Yeah.
And then you got Camilla and Kyle pretending like they're not working together, and then Joe.
and
is
then
the other
Joe,
pair.
who
And then Joe. And what does he do
didn't
here?
s-
What does he think's happening?
Joe was really quiet actually for this whole episode. And he's my MVP this season. And I felt a little bit like, Joe, can you play, please? Because I get points when you play. But he didn't do anything at all. He just kind of sat back and just waited. Because I think my theory is kind of that he was comfortable. So I was worried that a ricochet was going to go his way. And then I was going to lose my point mule.
Right.
And he just sat around and kind of just nodded yes, just agreed.
So Joe votes with Shaheen and Thomas ultimately in this tribal.
Against
They're all,
Kyle, yeah.
They're all coming from the same tribe, right?
Mhm.
And so, so I guess from Thomas's point of view, he's like, I don't need to steal a vote. We're going to win this 3-2.
That's a good point. Oh yeah, because they didn't find an idol in his bag, and there was no real reason to believe that he had an idol. They don't know. They didn't know that that Camilla had the 2 votes, which I think she played both of.
Right. And so ultimately he plays this idol on himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, and that's what sends Thomas home here. So, what is the sort of, I don't know if you can really fault Thomas for this. I guess they look in his bag. Where was he keeping it? Where was the idol?
In his shoe.
In the shoe.
Kyle had it in his shoe. And Shaheen even said, like, I went through his bag, but I didn't like go in the crevices. Because the other 2 people sitting there, it was Camilla, Shaheen, and Thomas sitting there. Camilla had to like pretend like she was down with it. But Shaheen had his hand in the bag, and he was even kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to do this. This feels wrong. Which, yeah, it's a messed up thing to do to somebody. But I mean, it happens all the time in Survivor, obviously. But none of the people none of the people playing really are out for blood, at least at this point in the game.
No, not really. One of the ones you would have thought would have been Thomas, but he gets kind of cut looking here, and gets sort of a little too comfortable going into this. He's got I got the numbers. We don't think Kyle has the idol here, but then you always have to. They could have split. No, I guess they could really have split because they would have forced a tie. So they were kind of in a bind here. The steal a vote. When he could have, so I guess if you're Thomas, what can you do here? You can steal vote,
Kyle's vote,
steal Kyle's
maybe?
vote, and then you, instead of voting for Kyle, you voted for somebody else, like Camilla. So you vote for Camilla, and then Camilla. But even then, you still go home. So
I think Camilla voted for Kyle. They didn't show her second vote, and I think Kyle voted for Thomas, and that was the ricochet.
Camilla voted for Thomas.
Camilla voted for. Did she use both of her votes? I didn't look at the thing at the end where they show how everybody voted.
It does not seem to indicate she used both votes.
Okay.
I don't think so. I just want to have a quick look here.
Because my wife and I thought that maybe. Yeah. Okay. So she did vote Thomas.
But she didn't vote twice. No, just the once.
Okay. Cool. So she has the double vote for next vote, or was it only for the one tribal?
She can still use it, right? So
yeah.
What will you think? What will be the fallout of this, if any?
Well, for one, that team, the haunted team, only has 4 people again. So going into the next game, they're going to have 2 teams are going to have people sit out. That's part of the fallout. The California girls are now just 2. They're going to be pissed off that all this, dissension among the ranks and deception happened feet
Thomas was
away
one of
from their
of the
face.
California girls. So
That's
the,
right.
the
Yeah.
surviving members are
They're going to be pissed.
Joe. Joe is one.
It's going to be Joe and Shaheen.
Joe and Shaheen. They were the other.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were all together here, and then they still lose a member. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that it seems like the edit for next week is going to be focused on Say, though.
Let's
So I'm
have a
wondering
look.
if. Yeah. Let's. Yeah.
It's 20 seconds. Let's just remind ourselves what's in this.
Camilla and I have just put on a master class in deception.
We're set. I think we can run this game.
Next time on Survivor.
Let's go, keep moving. We are tied.
I'm like, no way.
Say is causing chaos.
It's about to
pop off.
It really looks like Say is going to kill somebody next week. She's brandishing a knife, and everybody's like, "Oh!"
Yeah, we saw there. Bianca was like, she made some kind of animal call of some kind there. Like,
All of that could have been from the challenge, though. All of those shots. So we'll see. But
Yeah,
they definitely make it seem like something's going to go down.
What else was going on there? Like, there was a lot to it. Oh yeah, Camilla and Kyle saying that they are running a master class in deception. They think that they're running the game now. Like, at best, they're down 2-2 on this new merged tribe at the moment with the surviving California girls. So, but and have this will get around what they did here eventually, and they'll become huge targets to be broken up, right? So.
Absolutely. They're if they go to tribal next week again, it's gonna be an all-timer tribal too, because the scramble before that's gonna be crazy. Because nobody knows that if Camilla still has her 2 votes, then they have majority, her and Kyle, but they don't know, the California girls don't know that her and Kyle are working together necessarily, which that's something we're gonna find out early on, because it'll probably open with the fallout from tribal. So we're going to find out early next week, but it's tough to say because they focus so much on Say and whatever happens in that challenge that makes everybody lose it.
Yeah, well, it seems like, it looked like Chrissy was pretty happy in that challenge. So perhaps, Say's group does not do as well, or she's pissed off about something. So that was also part of the preview. I'll be there. Like, I was intrigued by sort of the output of all that. I think that they got some pretty good momentum in the season. But I think if you make a big move, right? Like, I think that my instinct would be like, go hide under a rock. Don't draw attention to this. You can always bring it up at the end of the game. I think just pound your chest about it, especially in the pre-merge, is sort of like, what's even the point? Say like, well, we got out Thomas, and what a great move is. We played the idol, and he left with an extra vote in his pocket, and whatever.
Well, I mean, if Camilla keeps this momentum going and she ends up being final 3 and she's making moves specifically like this through the whole game, then that's a good outwit and outplay point to make when you're in the final 3. But if she just gets eliminated, then all of this was just television that we were watching. Like, it's tough. It's too early to say what this really means going forward. But I think that, like I said earlier, I think she's a strategist, and strategists are always doing strategies, and they're always scheming. So, it could be a situation where they're giving her an edit too it seems like she's going to be a powerhouse. But
yeah, well, is she who was the winner last season? Trying to remember.
It's already out of my head. It's so bad.
Rachel.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So last season, like, Rachel, like, she's kind of had like this clutch moment, or one of the episodes is like focuses right on her face. And you're right. I feel like that we might be getting that same thing here from Camilla. Could Camilla be joining the pantheon of great Canadian women winners?
I hope so. Hopefully, all she has to do is sneak around in the bushes and get some intel that way.
Yeah, like Erica and Marianne. And,
Yeah.
I think I'm forgetting somebody else. But yeah. So I don't know. I think that's it from the episode. I don't know what else there is to cover other than, do you think how long till the merge, I guess, is the main thing to speculate about right now.
Well, maybe like it depends on how people drop off, I guess. I think if Green just gets whittled down again, they're just going to be like, okay, early merge. But
This
how many
beach that never had fire, that
Yeah.
just literally never had a flint. Like if I didn't have a flint, I would find a way how to start a fire.
I was thinking about that. In Survivor history, people have started fires with sticks. I've seen it happen before, right?
If you have a pair of glasses, though, like, does anyone wear eyeglasses on this tribe? I guess not. But
No.
couldn't you use that like a magnifying glass and get use the sun or something like that? That would be the go-to for me. If that's not available, then yeah, like you got to rub the sticks together or whatever. Like it's.
But it's also like if you don't have calories, then don't waste it on rubbing sticks together, I suppose, because they haven't even. The first group at Green hadn't eaten, and now this group doesn't have flint, and they're not going to eat for a couple days. So it might even
Right.
just be like, let's just forage for plant leaves.
If you don't have a flint and you don't have fire, what can you have? You could just have coconut, and that's about all you
Pretty
can
much coconut and
eat. Or eat raw
sushi.
fish or something like that.
Yeah. But they don't have anything to catch fish with, so just the slime that comes out of the claw of a tiny crab, I guess, is
Right.
where you're gonna go.
Well,
Bugs.
the one thing that Jane was noticing tonight was that everyone seemed to have like two pairs of shoes, like one one that they're wearing, and then another pair that might be hanging off of their backpack as they come into challenges. And she's like, "This isn't Survivor. They have two pairs of shoes. They can rotate them around in a dry pair and a wet pair." And I'm like,
They're
they're not-
glamping.
Yeah, they're not. They are more glamping now. Like basically, they're just taking over a beach that used to be run by several other tribes before them.
Mhm.
Compared to the seasons of old, Jason, where they had to find a brand new location, a whole new
Yeah.
country, often, where
And just ruin the ecosystem because of
yeah, just leave like a devastation in their wake. And now I'm sure this is more ecological and
it's
it
it's
looks
more
great on TV,
sustainable.
but-
It's true, I agree. It's like always, but I do want to see the other locations, but I also feel like they're doing irreversible damage to Fiji by doing this because they're just that one clearing they do all the games in really
Yeah.
feels like unnatural almost. I
The
do like
island
the
wouldn't
idea.
naturally be that open with it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's all
they,
jungle, right?
they have to clear cut that. Yeah, but I guess it is less harmful to the environment than them going to a whole new location. But
That's true.
I just miss the more survival aspect of being on Survivor sometimes. Where I'm like, you saw a little bit in tonight's where like, hey, it rained all night, they're super cold after the vote. And I it used to be like, hey, we're living with rats, we don't know what to eat, we're like the mundaneness, and all that's out now. It's all strategy, and I guess even with a 90-minute episode, they feel like they need to fill that all in. But
Yeah, it's like a board game now almost.
yeah, but I think that's what I do miss that, and I think that the new locations I think naturally spawned that all because it's always like now we're in this kind of an environment which is slightly different survival methods, right? And
It goes to what Jamil usually says when we talk about this element is like he doesn't like the super fan players so much, I think is what he always says. And nowadays, I was thinking about this last week, like could they get a group of people that have no idea what Survivor is even, to come out and like cast a group of people that have never, because even the stupid reality shows like F-Boy Island are all like tropical and have similar, like you go out there and you play a game and then you vote each other off. So I don't even know if you could. I think you have to come up with a completely new idea now to really bring the excitement of a Survivor situation back, which it's unfortunate.
Well, I know you're not a Big Brother fan per se, but in that show, compared to Survivor, I feel like there are more true recruits who are people that don't know anything about Big Brother. Like they've never
Right.
watched it, they never heard of it. But I feel like with Survivor, everyone who's on the show has gone through, in most cases, probably years of audition process. They've wanted to be on it, for a long time. They're very familiar with the game, so everyone seems like a super fan in some ways.
There's been people who are like, I started applying 8 years ago and I finally got on. So I feel like
it seems like it's
just,
everybody now. And even
yeah.
this season, you see a lot of these, like they're talking to the producer and then they're in, right? Because, there's a series of interviews before you finally get whittled down to the final 16 or whatever, or 18, I guess, in this case. But, yeah, and in Big Brother, it's like, people show up and they don't know how it works. They don't know how, mundane it's going to be, how they're going to vote every so often, that how the household is. There's often a misunderstanding around what a back door is or these different terms and what it means. So in Survivor, you just don't see that sloppiness. It seems to be way more calculated and everyone sort of knows what everyone else is doing. So to get like people who are like true recruits, I think they could do it, but they would have to completely change the way they do their casting. And I guess that with Survivor, they just never have had to. It's always been like, oh, we have all these amazing people coming to us. Why would we want to, bring in somebody like a fish out of water situation? Why would we need to?
They've probably tried different ways too that we don't know about, like, because we're not on production, obviously. They've probably over the years tried different things that just didn't work. Maybe my, me observing players that seem more normal in the early days of the new generation, the new era. Maybe that's what they were trying to do, trying to get people that don't seem like they'd, really know what's going once they get out there. But then they get out there and they're like, oh yeah, I've been watching Survivor since the beginning. And then you're like, oh, you're just bad at this.
Well, I'm sure even with the casting pool that they have, like there are people that say like, I'm only here because my husband said I should apply or something. Like I don't really know what this is.
And like that season where the two people went home in a row, the one guy, the big fat guy who was just like terrible and couldn't do anything, like obviously he was going to go. But then the woman who went home after him, I was sure that she was only on there to get her Instagram followers up because she refused to do anything and then was like, this is too much, I'm going home. And I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if she just came out here and she was going to show up in other reality shows. I don't know if she ended up doing that.
Yeah,
but
you're probably right that she was the closest example to a recruit or somebody who was probably in another casting process for Big Brother or something like that and ended up in Survivor and goes, oh my God, I have to like live out here on the bamboo or whatever and the bugs openly every night. So no, thank you. Right. So I guess it does happen with Survivor, but in Big Brother, I'd say that's almost more that tendency. And in Big Brother, like they got it much better. Like they get beds to sleep in and it's, a lot more comfortable, except for that week they make them live all outside in the backyard for the whole week in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up for tonight. R.I.P. Thomas. Who had Thomas in the draft? It was, I think, one sec. I got it here. Jane. Oh, poor Jane. And Jane still has Shaheen. So, Thomas Jane. Watch out. Great actor.
Yep.
All right. What's going on Hey, did you see this one right now?
This month, the Spring Grimoire is open. We're covering. We finished up Chucky last week. We've done all the Chucky movies now. All of that's done. So look out in October when we start a new movie. Spoilers, it's going to be Scream. But for now, this week, we're doing. Speaking of Scream, sort of the in between of Freddy and Scream. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is the episode this week. The movie is sort of the prototype meta sort of vibe that Wes Craven's Scream would go on to be based off of.
It's Proto Scream.
It's Proto Scream, and it's a great film, and we're going to have a great conversation with my old podcast co-host from Blossom Buddies, a little podcast I used to do just before the pandemic started, where we covered every episode of Blossom. Nobody watched it. So if you ever think that you have a podcast that nobody's watching, go back and look at the numbers for Blossom Buddies, and you'll see.
We're about to do For All Mankind on the Star Trek channel, and it'd be interesting to see what numbers we get for that, because I don't think a lot of people have seen it or heard of it.
Right. Yeah. No, I know. And that's the thing about doing a different, like at least with the themes, people see, oh, they're doing a theme. They can lock in on that. But it's still, we do a random movie every week, seemingly, and getting audience retention from that is a little bit difficult. Any movie podcast probably goes through it. So you're there to see me and Steve yuck it up with our various guests. Dave, of course, was on for a James Bond episode, which was until this week our highest ever viewed episode. Right
I've been
now,
usurped.
You've been usurped this week. Last week's episode, Cult of Chuck, or Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood of all movies, has gone over 1,000 views. So I don't know how this works.
It's the algorithm. It's a mysterious, but
it is. I use everything I can to game it. But outside of that, hey, did you see this one as a show you can watch each and every week on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook at 8 p.m. every Thursday, and then I put the episodes up over the weekend for on demand. And then on Friday this week, I am an announcer for a wrestling company here in Toronto called Super Kicked, and we have a show called Throwdown on Friday night. I think tickets are still available, so come on by and check out some professional wrestling action and see me, as I always say the names louder than everybody else.
Well, that's great. Thanks for breaking all that down. Yeah, that's in Toronto, you said?
That's in Toronto, at the Great Hall here in Toronto on Queen Street. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, on a Live Long and podcast, we're not going to be on tomorrow. There's a curling game that has taken over our Thursday night for the playoffs. So our Star Trek: The Next Generation review will be pushed out a week. We're also covering the Orville right now. We're almost done season 3. Go check that out. And one day we'll cover Captain America here on this channel, but not today. It's going to have to wait till streaming, perhaps.
It's the Mary. I'll learn it one day. Yep.
The Mary Mater Marvel Society.
The Mary Mater Marvel
it's
Society.
It's a tongue twister, really.
The thing about that is I'm so ready, but every time we go another week, a new show comes out and finishes. We were just like, oh, we have to push back Brave New World, and then all of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man came and went, and now Thunderbolts comes out in May, and then also Born Again is on right now. Born Again, though, can't wait to talk about that. That is best Marvel ship thing I've seen.
I've only watched the first 2 episodes. I got to catch up on that one. So
there's 2 more after that, and I haven't seen the newest one, and it's, oh my God, I can't even.
You're enjoying it because Daredevil's not
so
necessarily my favorite character, but I was liking it okay so far in the first 2 episodes. Enough that I was, going to come back to it. I wasn't a huge fan of the Netflix series either, but we're going to get into that. Yeah, we have a lot of to catch up on. But yeah, we got the Captain America movie. We got that Spider-Man show, which I thought was pretty fun.
I liked it a lot.
So lots to break down. We'll be back for the next episode of Survivor, titled "A Masterclass in Deception." This next week on that will be on March 26th, everybody. So thanks for being with us, and we'll leave you with something here from Jason, from Jeff Probst. I'm sorry,
for me,
from you, not from Jason. All right, have a good night, everybody, and see you next time.
Thank you. See you.
Pizza delivery.
Oh my God.
Pepperoni. Hawaiian. Vegetarian. And gluten-free.
Gluten-free.
Plus soda.
Yeah, I'm fighting
We're
today.
playing for.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.